The AV market is a broad sector, isn't it? What have you seen over the COVID period? And are you seeing any trends that are starting to surface as we start to emerge from COVID?
I think the interesting thing, of course, was that things have been put on hold, really, while COVID has been around. What it has done, however, is it's made it possible for certain organisations to do very, very well, very quickly. People like Zoom, for instance, have become a household name. General AV has not moved very much, I don't believe, during that period of time. Up until when COVID became the thing that everybody had to notice and worry about, even things like screens, the technologies were changing very, very quickly. That has slowed down. I don't think there's very many big changes in large screens from the last 18 months to 2 years.
It seems that the whole of our environments are changing, actually. The whole workspace is going to change. Are they right in taking this wait-and-see approach, or should they actually be doing something now? And if they should be doing something now, do you have an idea what we should be doing?
I think we are, and it's not, when I say we, I think everybody, the royal we, are in a difficult position at the moment. To an extent, we have to be guided by government rules. It's going to be a little while still before we get too many people really going for things. I think the very interesting side of that probably is looking at some of the big names around the world, the Amazons and people like Facebook and these sort of guys. They're really holding back at the moment on what they want to do with their people. They're not certainly changing the number of people they've got. They're certainly talking about changing the environment that people are likely to work in their offices, but they don't seem to be doing a huge amount about it at the moment. I do believe that they probably have more than one solution, but they're waiting to see which solution is likely to come out as their favourite.
It's all about having flexibility, isn't it, really, while you're waiting for that, and that kind of quite nicely ties into the products that you supply.
Yeah.
To be able to deploy a solution, it needs to be easy to operate, not only for your IT, AV team, but all the way down to the end user. You've got a couple of solutions, haven't you, that can help me out.
If we look at where people that are using a product like Zoom is concerned, when working at home, you're generally sitting in front of a laptop and you can be sitting quite close to it. You've got a camera there, you've got audio and everything available, so that's fine. When you start looking at utilising that within the office, things are a little bit different. Generally, and this is a generalisation, when you're using something like Zoom, the typical camera that's being used is a USB camera. USB as a technology allows you to do lots of different things and it's very flexible. However, it's not very flexible at giving you an option of where you want to put the camera, because typically we're talking about a maximum distance of about 12 to 15 metres, even with a shielded cable. That means that if you've got a fairly reasonable sized boardroom table and you want to put the camera up on the wall, there needs to be a reasonable sort of distance between the codec or processor and the camera. So if you're trying to work, and a lot of people will still be working with a laptop as the processor, it means that they can't move their camera very far away without maybe running cables all across the table or along the floor, which can potentially become a health and safety problem. Whereas we can put together a little package which allows people to be able to move that camera, put it on the wall, on the ceiling, wherever they want to be able to move it, up to 100 metres away from the processor. So it makes it very, very flexible for that customer to be able to do it.
Cat 5/6 cables. I can run power.
Yes.
I can control a device with that. Is that
Yes.
correct? So if
Yes.
I've got a PTZ camera, I can move it around.
Correct.
It's one cable. It's an all singing, all dancing solution, isn't it?
It is. And the nice thing that you've just mentioned is you're also powering. You're powering from the codec area or the processor area, so that when you put your camera on the ceiling or on the wall, you don't need a power point there. So that means that when the system's being installed, you don't have to have an authorised electrician to come along and put a power point there. And often that slows installations down because people can't get an authorised electrician when they need them.
But we keep this away from the network, don't we? We keep all this data away from the corporate network. Data security
Yes.
is hugely important. Tell me a little bit about how Cat 5, Cat 6 can ensure my data is secure, because that's massively important.
There's another thing as well with networks, of course. When we're dealing with video conferencing, we're dealing with live video and live audio. It's big. It takes up a lot of space. Typically, the network controller in the building will not be happy having too much extra traffic going on his network, especially large video and audio data. So often they will be very reticent to allow a video conferencing system to be linked into their main network. So typically speaking, you won't do that. You'll keep it separate. The way that we keep the data secure is the codecs are always making a secure link system to system. Now, at this moment in time, of course, people are always trying to hack into this type of thing. One of the things that we're already doing is looking at using fibre as an alternative to a Cat 5 or Cat 6 cable. And for people like universities, like the Health Service, like Ministry of Defence, those guys are already interested in being able to use that because it's secure.
And how far in the future is that, Peter?
We've actually got installations now. I think that over the next 2 to 3 years, we'll start to see a lot of organisations and international interest. Certain countries that are very into security will be very keen to be able to utilise fibre.
What's exciting you in the world of AV in terms of tech, or is it all software based from now on?
The problem is you need to have the hardware to be able to make things available. I think that software is the way that things are obviously going. There's no doubt about that. I don't think that will change. I really don't think that will change. I think that processing power will become greater. I think the size of all sorts of pieces of kit will become smaller. There's no doubt about that.
The chip shortage problem that we were speaking about a few months ago seems to have gone away.
No, I don't think that's right. I think the furore over it has gone away a little. I think that if you look at the car industry particularly, there is a big problem with new cars. Because of their continual volumes of generally fairly similar components, they're the favourites for the processor manufacturers to work with, because they take the volume all the time and they take the volume of a particular chip on a regular basis. The IT companies tend to be a little bit different. Because they're moving so fast in new models. I mean, if you look at car models, how long will a model last in the car industry? Typically 5 years. Computers, 3 to 5 months, sometimes less. Screens, 2 to 3 months, sometimes less. So the chips that go into those are continually changing. So the car people keep the chip manufacturers in business doing the same things all the time. The computer companies are a bit different because they want changes and tweaks and all this sort of thing. That takes much more time for the processor people to catch up with. I think what's happened is that the car people are getting the bulk of what's being made available. They're also taking the bulk of some of the metals that are being used in all of these industries as well.
And that takes us actually very neatly back to the very beginning of the conversation, where you said that innovation has been almost stagnant.
There's certainly a queue of product that could come out, but it can't come out because the processors and the chips are not available in volume at the moment.
Generally, though, how are you feeling?
I'm optimistic, and it's interesting that I think a number of people in similar industry to us are quite optimistic about things at the moment. There's no doubt about that. I think certainly that some of the higher end companies that are in video conferencing particularly are a little wary because of the amount and number of people that are now using lower cost software based options. But we feel that will change over a period of time, because as people go back to working in offices, they will want to have a quality product.